unprovoked. But what stops men from being vulnerable?
Vulnerability to men sounds like weakness. In fact, it is weakness. And we have been taught not to be weak. Let me tell you, it's very easy. Even right now where we sit, as much as we are influenced by God and all these things, we still struggle at the point of vulnerability. What stops us from that is because we lose a little piece of ourselves every time we become weak.
I think, Imani, one of the biggest struggles that we men have is being vulnerable. And it is a consequence of things like that. Being told, men don't cry, you have to be responsible. And so you will often find that we live very, I don't want to say fake lives, but we live lives that are not truly authentic sometimes.
Well, I'll say from being, provision, making sure that you've provided for your family. You've also become the head of, you're the spiritual head of that family. So spiritually, you're praying out for them.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Women, Words, and Wisdom Global. I'm your host, Imani Mwaura. This is a space that we created to engage, to equip, to empower, and enrich all of us to live a fulfilled life. Let me just say a big shout out to this growing community. You keep on encouraging us. You keep on watching the content that we share. You keep on sharing, and that is really, really encouraging to us. So kudos to our growing community. This is the point I say, if you are watching and you're not part of the community, by subscribing, you will be part of this community. So go ahead and click on that subscribe button. Be among those who get the front row seat anytime we release a new content. Now, today's conversation is a special one. In the month of November, in particular, November 19th, we celebrate International Men's Day. This is a time where we look at the positive value that men bring to our communities, to our families, and even to our society at large. But let me ask you, have you ever thought what the price of masculinity? You know, as I say, the value, celebrating the value of men, it looks all rosy. But men, today is a conversation about you. I'm sure you will tell me it's not as rosy as you think. So I'm joined by three incredible men. I'm glad to say they are friends, and I'm their friend too. So this is going to be an exciting conversation. And so I will just let them introduce themselves, maybe with just one sentence. I don't know if I should start with my right or left.
I think you should start with your right, because women are always right. So we can start with Joshua.
All right, you've said so.
Well, my name is Joshua Wanjagi, and one thing about me is that I love perfection, and if it's not going on in a certain way, or the perfect supposedly way, then it's not going the right way.
Mr. Perfect is here with us. Next.
Thank you so much for being part of the show. My name is James Wanjagi, and because we were told to say only one line, currently my name is James Wanjagi. I'm glad to be here.
Really? Just something about yourself, James?
I just really enjoy a space where we can connect as men to build one another. I'm not perfect like Joshua, but I love spaces where we can where we can connect as men. So it's a great opportunity to come and really talk about the things of God, about faith, but also to connect as men. Thank you.
Okay. A space to connect as men. I like that. Over to you.
Fantastic. My name is Duncan Kiama, and although I have worn so many hats in the past, this season I am a thought provoker. My job is to
Eish.
provoke thoughts. I make men think about their current and not defined by their pasts. So that's who I am. I engage conversation and I love having conversations as well.
Awesome. You can imagine what is in store for us today. These are men who have known success and they have also known breaking points. So in today's conversation, we will not just remain on the surface. We hope to get deeper and see, despite it all, they have put themselves together and really get to know about the price of masculinity. Now, let me just dive into it and ask Mr. Perfect.
Okay.
Growing up, what message about being a man was out there, and how has that shaped the person you've become today?
On my end, one thing, let's say, growing up spiritually and also growing up as a young man and now to the old man that, let's say, I am getting to, I would say always making sure that you're a leader. And being a leader means all the responsibilities lie on your shoulders. And the 4 Ps of a man were really, really engraved in me by my dad from a very young age. And that is, I come from a family of all only boys. So those were, some of the things that were ingrained in us when we were really young. And also as we've grown up, my siblings have families. And well, I've seen those things, those P's actually work in their lives. And I hope also that with time, those P's will work in mine too.
So, what are those P's? I don't want to assume that we all know. Is perfect one of them?
Well, I'll say from being, provision, making sure that you've provided for your family. You've also become the head of, you're the spiritual head of that family. So spiritually, you're praying out for them. And then on the last two, they're really not on top of my mind, but I'll talk about them as we go ahead and as we conversate.
Okay.
But those are the first two that come in: provision and prayer.
Okay.
Yes.
Great. I think I remember protector.
And yes.
Yes.
Also.
Yeah. And what about you, James? What are those qualities of a man that were put out there and you've seen it in your life now?
So, first of all, Imani, thank you. I really love the fact that we're talking about men and we're talking about masculinity. I never grew up in a family where the role of a man was modeled. So we, two brothers, an absentee father, or an in and out father. So the learnings about what it means to be a man came from my uncles, perhaps seeing other men do conversations. And so I think the one thing that really stayed throughout my life is that, one, men don't cry. We were taught, suck it up. I'm not sure whether I can say suck it up in this but we were told, men don't cry.
Yeah.
You're a man. You're not supposed to cry. There was the element of provision. I didn't see it, but, you're told men are the ones who provide for. There was the element of hearing people say that when men have a problem and they sit together in a table, they're not really supposed to talk about their problems. They're supposed to, keep that within, because it's already been talked about by our women counterparts. So those are some of the things, Imani, that I saw growing up. And that's how, in many ways, perhaps shaped my masculinity in the early years.
Yeah.
But you see, I'll talk about when you find faith and you find God, that changes. But initially, without God, being talked about too much in the picture, what you saw was you're supposed to be this man who doesn't cry, doesn't, everything must be going a certain way. You're supposed to provide even when you don't have. So, it becomes a very interesting conversation that we were being built around.
Yeah, that's very interesting. There's actually a movie called Men Don't Cry. Yeah? We will be back to that. I will pick your mind more about that. Dunco, I'm curious about you. Now that you're a thought-provoking person right now, what are those qualities of a man that were modeled to you when you were young? And have they influenced who you are today?
Well, one that really stands out is what Dr. James has talked about, that men don't cry. But another one that really had a big impact in my life, and when I say this, I want us to think about it was hammered in me, both physically and emotionally, was the aspect of responsibility. I am the firstborn of 3. So my brother follows me, and then I have a sister. So I remember a story back in the day when we had all gone to church, and I was given the mandate of holding the house keys. And when we were coming back home, I had lost the keys. That really sticks out like a sore thumb to me. I had lost the keys, and I remember being whooped seriously. I was beaten, and as my father was caning me, he kept saying, you must be responsible. Because if you lose the keys today, your brother will keep losing the keys, and your sister will keep losing the keys. And I hated the fact that I was a firstborn for the biggest part of my upbringing, because my father was trying to teach me responsibility. Maybe his ways were a little bit harsh, but to some extent, I actually practice it right now that both of them are late, and now I'm the head of the family. I realize that responsibility is such a big task on me. Our children, I'm not hammering it into them, but I'm trying to show them and teach them the value of responsibility. So that to me sticks out like a sore thumb, because I even have stories about when I failed in my position as being responsible, and I had to pay dearly for it. So I don't know why, but I hold it dear to my heart. Yes.
Wow, that's interesting that at that tender age, that responsibility, unaware of it or even aware of it, you're still carrying it to date. And I can't help to think that that's the price of masculinity, and that society, starting from the family unit, places that on you, and you have to do it. Even with an absentee father, there's nothing that you can say, because my dad was not there, I will not. You've had to do it. But let me go back to James' story about men don't cry, and let's talk about vulnerability. Then what happens at that point that things are not as you expected, things have gone south, and because it's the reality of life and you have to face it, you have to let the people around you, whether the people you're working with or your family and things like that. What do you do? If I can start with you. We forgot to say, Dr. James. Yes.
Thank you, Manny. I think, Manny, one of the biggest struggles that we men have is being vulnerable. And it is a consequence of things like that. Being told, men don't cry, we have to be responsible. And so you will often find that we live very, I don't want to say fake lives, but we live lives that are not truly authentic sometimes, because we are constantly hiding everything that we go through. You will not find, Imani, a group of men talking about their problems. Rarely will you find. But you'll find a group of ladies helping each other about things that they're going through. you will not find many men sitting together and praying together, because all of those things are considered being vulnerable. You will not find men, and perhaps now it's changing, but if I have a problem, going to Duncan and saying, Dunco, even chote 2,000, 3,000, because I consider that an element of being vulnerable. And so we are creating a community of men who struggle with issues and struggle alone. And Imani, there's a lot of research currently that shows that if you look at when men are dying in families and when women are dying in families, there are a lot more men dying before or around the 65-year age. And women are living a lot longer because we are carrying a lot of pain, a lot of wounds. We're carrying so much. And if you go to church, you don't find us in church because you see, faith also helps you balance that. But we don't find ourselves there because we also think it's a level of weakness, being found before God. And, so there's a lot of that vulnerability, Imani, that just really eats on the inside of men. Yeah. And so when men don't cry, it's truly because of all these things that we see. And then it looks like we all went to the same school. If you ask Duncan and you ask Joshua and you ask most of the men around, they will tell you the same thing. Mwanaume ali, unalia nini? Be a man. And that be a man thing is just embedded in you throughout your life. So,
Yeah, a few episodes back, we had one of our guests, Peterson, who told a story that I carry to date. And he was talking about, he was in the house and he has a daughter and a son. And so the son fell down and was with the friends. And this is about 4 years, 5-year-old. And he could hear one of the girls around the son saying, usilie, unajua wanaume wali. At 4 years, the society is already talking about this. Joshua, if I could ask you, so James has talked about even when men meet, they don't talk about these things because that's being vulnerable. Yeah? And when men meet, it's maybe football or other things. How, I want us to be vulnerable now. How has your circle of friends, because I know you guys are friends. I know you guys are friends and life has served you well and sometimes not well. What can you say about having friends who are men, not just for football, but even to be vulnerable too?
Quick one. Everyone who's watching this from Boston and Dallas, hey, NFL, go Patriots. We're already 6-2 for the year that no one actually thought that we would do it. We are 6-2 and we are coming. We are coming. Yes.
Really?
Now, time to get vulnerable. Well, Imani, first of all, thank you. And also, the best part about this and about that question is, right now I'm seated at this stage with two of my people, like my close people. Dr. James here, I've known him since our Houston days when we were in campus. So he's a man who has seen me through my teenage years. Actually, no, I wouldn't call it my late teenage, all the way to the years that we have here. Duncan here, on the other hand, is a man who I've known for over now 10 years and a close man at heart. And these are men who know my successes, know my failures. And I would say, as much as we are told men don't cry, these men here have seen the lowest of the low on my end. So I would not be ashamed, or I'd not even feel any type of way being here and talking about the things that we're talking about today. Because yes, being vulnerable and to them, I have been. And we all know as a man, you need to have at least 2 or 3 people in your life who are close to you that can tell your story. And these two here can tell my story. So when it comes to vulnerability, I believe these two here are gentlemen who know exactly how I can be vulnerable, and I have been vulnerable with them. And I believe that out there as a man talking to you, you need to have about, let's say, at the max 3 people that you can share to, because those are different views that you're going to have in your life. Those are different ears, different mouths, different ideologies that are going to speak to you and are going to speak to your situation. Not particularly you as an individual, but to the situation that is making you vulnerable. Because most of these things that we go through as men, it's not about you per se. It's the situation that you're going through or the phase of life that you're going through at that point. And as much as we are always told, this shall pass, between the T of this shall pass and the S of pass, oh my,
There's a lot in between.
there are a lot of tears involved. There are a lot of losses that sometimes you don't even know how to handle it as a man. It's tough. But when you have some people who are with you and can walk with you that journey, then you know for real you can make it.
Wow. I think what I'm getting from you, Josh, is, do you have a man who can tell your story? Do you have a man who can see your tears, whether it's physical tears or even the internal tears? Do you have that? And it is okay for you to be vulnerable, because this is what helps. They say a problem shared is half solved, that you're not carrying that burden alone. So this is a call for men. And we will talk about women a little later, how we can help you with this. But yes, calling upon all men and even women who are listening to also allow men to have that space. We want to counter that societal expectation that men don't cry. It's okay for men to cry. And over to you, Dunco. So you have been in the spotlight, in the socials, in the media, radio, and whatnot. What are some unrealistic societal expectations that we have put on men that have been put on you?
Wow. When you mentioned the spotlight, I kind of cringe a little bit, because there's this facade that when you are somewhere above, or you're looking, people have elevated you, that no matter what happens to you, you need to keep a strong face, your head held high, and that smile. And I'll give you a story. My first time on radio was in 2015. And I had just joined this radio station, and it was my first time to be on air. We had practiced for a few months, and it was the first Friday that the station was going on air for the first time ever. And I happened to be behind the mic with one of the greats, Colton Nzuki, and we were going on air for the first time. And it was such an experience for me. But what happened was, halfway through, I started trending on Twitter back then. And I was like, wow, I'm doing really great. Little did I know that at the same time as I was doing what I was doing for the first time, a story had broken about me. A scandal of all scandals had broken. And it's because I realized that at this time the devil was trying to distract me. But another station broke out a story about me. And then someone in that station happened to say, he has just started a new job somewhere and he's on radio so-and-so. And everyone came to listen, because everyone wanted to know, to hear that squeal in my voice, that shakiness, to know, this guy is guilty of what he's been accused of. And it was one of the most lowest moments of my life. But I remember us going on break, and Tina told me, listen, they have all come here to see you crumble. Don't give them that. And that was a very vulnerable. And the reason I'm saying this is because for me it's different. See, Joshua has men who stand by him. Me this time, it was a woman. And I didn't know how to be vulnerable in front of a woman. But Tina, as an authority and a woman of God, told me, Dunco, they are here to see you fail. Prove them wrong. Don't think about it, just flow. And that happened to be one of my favorite shows ever. I went back, I did it, I gave it my best. And that changed my thinking and that changed a little bit about me, because I have grown into such a situation where, such a man that I am not afraid to be vulnerable. Why? Because I use my stories to help men overcome whatever they're going through. That calls for a lot of vulnerability. I talk about my stories. I talk about my scandals. I talk about my failures openly. And that's one area of life where God has opened that door for me in order to create and provoke these conversations so that men can change and become better. So there's a lot of facade when it comes to when you're in the limelight. You need to keep a smile. Oh, trust you me. I will cry even here if you unprovoked. Because it's only through my story that we get to understand who we are as men. But if we hide behind the walls, we will meet and huddle and start burying each other in our 60s, in our 70s, and we are meant to live a fulfilled life. Yeah.
Wow, that's powerful. So many aspects of that story. And I can't help but to mention this one. This podcast is called Women, Words and Wisdom. And you have talked about the power of words.
Yes.
That our words have the power to either build or destroy. Look at what Tina told you at that point where it looked like things are crumbling down. And well, I am glad it's a woman, but men can also do that. But I think this is my challenge to us as women, because we're the same ones who can actually destroy you. We're the same ones. So how are you using your words? Are you using your words to build people or to make them crumble? That's powerful. And thank you for sharing that.
Oh, most definitely. Most
James, I
definitely.
want to come back to you and let's talk about success. Because, I was somewhere, and you can correct me, that, as men introduce themselves, it's about what they have done, it's about their titles, and it's about the scoreboard. That's what we like. What is success to you?
What was success?
I like that.
Is success?
And what
I like that. I like that.
You see, my journey has been a very interesting journey. I'm called a doctor. I'm called a pastor. I've been a CEO. I've been a CIO. I've owned, and please, this is not bragging. I'm just trying to show the difference. I've lived in a 45 million house in the US. And all of those things, I've, married a beautiful woman. And all of those things were considered, in my view, success then. At some point, I had 3 cars in my parking lot. And I could decide today I'm going with an X6, and that to me was success, then a season where everything went. I'm no longer the CEO that I used to be. I'm starting a ministry where we are 5 of us. From a ministry where, the story, we were 600 at any given time. Yeah. When people call me doctor, just call me James. Because the shift is that success can be defined by the world. And when it's defined by the world, you feed off of that. You've heard Duncan saying he was defined at some point by the socials, the socials. But when you really have it all and lose it all, you begin to define success differently, Imani. And you begin to define success by friendships. You begin to define success by your faith. Now, whether you have a car or not is not such a big deal. It's a great thing to have, but it's not the thing. It's not the definition. Success to me now looks very different. I am very content, and I love what Paul said. You're content when you have and when you don't have. Is the friends that I have, the family that you have, family that you can rely on. I lost my dad and my mom, 9 months, in a 9-month period. So even the foundation of family is easy you've lost it. So then what do? So you go and you have to then pull back yourself and begin rebuilding. The beauty about rebuilding, Imani, is that because you have hindsight of the past, you rebuild differently. Yeah. And so how I have chosen to rebuild these years is very different from how I would have rebuilt it before. So my success and the way I view it now is family, faith, and friendships.
Wow. What's your definition of success? Dr. James has given it to us, his definition, and I love it. Faith, family, and friendships. What is your definition? Joshua, can I ask you that question? What's your definition?
For me, my definition right now starts with faith. And I'll piggyback on him about being content with what you have right now and making sure that you're thankful to your Maker and to God for life. And then that is a very good definition of success in terms, because yes, I would share a similar story of like what he's had. I would say by the time I turned 40, I had everything that a man would want. A good house in a very well-off neighborhood in Nairobi, married, had all those titles from being a group service delivery manager I would say about 28 to 34 countries. Also, I had been a COO. And all these things, these are just titles of life. I had it. I had it all by 40. I would say I had made it. But definitely, life's, and there are some things, some mistakes here and there. And you look at it and you say, right now, that's the past. And as Duncan had said, being a thought provoker, he makes sure that as a man, your present or your future will not be defined by the mistakes that have held you back in the past. So that is my mantra right now. Faith, contentment, and I know that with time and with dedication, the past that I see was a success then will be something minute to what is coming in the future. So that's how I look at life, and that's how I look at my present success, and that is what I keep on telling many men or some guys who actually know me. Look at my life and let my life also be a story that you can envy, or you can actually look at and say, you know what, if he did it after what happened to him, then you can also do it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow, I love this. And you're just with what James had said, that you had it all and then you lose it all.
Yes.
Because your success is not determined by your past. Mm-hmm. And I love what both of you have talked about. Dunco, I want to take you by your word. You said, you can cry if you want to.
Unprovoked.
Unprovoked. But what stops men from being vulnerable?
You see, it's what we had talked about earlier on, where vulnerability to men sounds like weakness. In fact, it is weakness. And we have been taught not to be weak. Let me tell you, it's very easy. Even right now where we sit, as much as we are influenced by God and all these things, we still struggle at the point of vulnerability. What stops us from that is because we lose a little piece of ourselves every time we become weak. Every time we become weak. And sorry to say, most of us, because we've gone through relationships, you have talked about words. So this person, you live with them, they know you in and out, so they even know your weaknesses. That's one of the, I think they should highly emphasize that when it comes to premarital counseling, they should emphasize that, because once they know your weaknesses, they challenge you and they can bring them up anywhere. And when I say they, I mean our dear ladies. We love you very
Women, this
much.
is for us.
Yes. So you realize the first challenge of a family, a new family, is the distance and the lack of vulnerability, because men are in a space where this person actually knows what I'm weak at. So they can use it in battle. When your enemy knows your weakness, they will utilize that. That's the point of attack. When we hear Maasai's conquering, a lion, and they're in a circle and surrounded the lion, that lion will look around and look at the weakest link, and that's where it's going to run away through. It's going to use that as its exit space. So that is the same way with men. So because we know that is the danger, that you knowing our weaknesses is that you will use it against us. You'll make me feel less of a man. Then what do? I cave. And I really hide my weaknesses. And how you address my weaknesses becomes a point of it becomes a conflict. That's now where the conflict starts. So it's very hard to be vulnerable. Even at this point, we are vulnerable with God. By the way, I'll talk about this. There's a group of men where we really love God and we meet to worship. But can you imagine when the worship has hit deep, people turn off the lights? Because that's the only, and then when you're praying and you open your eyes, you see men lying on the floor crying.
Wow.
That is the word they don't want you to see. And we are at Biblica. So the good thing, that room is very dark. So when you switch off the lights, men now lay prostrate on the floor and they worship and they cry.
Yeah.
But even to each other, we don't want to show each other that. So that's still it's still a thesis. Daktari.
Daktari, I want you to start your another thesis by telling us, so how then as men, and we're going to wrap this first episode. We have more coming up for you, but I want Daktari to wrap it for us. So then, how do you balance being strong? Because really, as women, we look up to you. We look up to you as our strength, as our protector, the peace as our provider, our prayer warrior, We look up to you, but you still have struggles. How do you get to balance that?
Imani, I want to mention something that I really like what Duncan said. In order for us to balance between us being vulnerable and being the strength and the man that you expect to provide security, to make you feel like you're comfortable, you have to allow us as women, and I want to start there, to be vulnerable and protect that vulnerability. Because when you protect our vulnerability and we become more vulnerable, and you do not use it against us, then it allows you to see me. You know how that movie that says, I see you. It allows you to see me. And when you see me, you then recognize, this man is vulnerable, but he needs me. And when he needs me, it means that we can build a very strong foundation and we can grow together. So I think the first thing is allow us in our enclosed spaces. Allow us to be vulnerable. And don't use it against us. I remember sometimes at night being told, and I know that you cry, and it's
ouch.
Unfair. So you know that I cry, and you're going to use it against me because you're telling me, So
Lucky women, let's not say that.
so allow us to be vulnerable, because when we are vulnerable with you, it helps us even in other social settings. That's number one. Number two, faith. I am a strong and a firm believer in that, and I love what Dunco said. If we cannot be vulnerable at home, let us find space as men to be vulnerable as men. We had a brotherhood of a group that we were, I think we called each other men keepers or something, I can't remember, in the US. And we would come, and it was the first time that I saw men cry amongst each other. I can't remember how long it took. I know it took us more than 3 months. But when faith comes into the picture, it allows men to be vulnerable before God. And the more we are vulnerable before God, the more it creates space for us to also be vulnerable in other spaces. So number one is just allowing men to be who they have been created to be. If we're told Jesus wept, why shouldn't a man weep? And then the third thing I think that can really help men is we men taking the responsibility of mentoring the generation that is coming and helping them understand what it really means to be a man. That strength, responsibility, and vulnerability are all part of being a man.
Right.
And that when we are told you need to be a man, you say, yes, I'm a man, but it doesn't mean I cannot cry. And so in fact, we were talking about this with my two brothers just now, that there are some spaces where we need to bring the young men into what we have experienced, share our lives, and help them understand that our lives have not been perfect, but here's what I can help to make yours better, so that your journey is not my journey. Your loss or your lack of success or my fall is not your fall. So if we can do those three things, allowing us as women, our faith, and building that as brothers, and then using that to serve and to give back, I think it will help us create a more balanced man. Yeah, that balanced man that we're looking for.
Yeah. Wow, this conversation is very intriguing, very exciting, and I'm so glad that you guys allowed yourselves to do this. It's not that I'm ending it. I just want to let you know, come back for our next episode as we continue to delve deeper into this conversation with these phenomenal men with me today. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share, comment, and help us reach more and more people. Until next time, I'm Imani Mwaura. We look forward to seeing you in the next episode.